what do you do with hashes? Now, an important concept here, and I'm going to hit on two of them that are business related here, is that the purpose of a business is to make money. It's not to hire employees. It's not to take good care of the employees. That may be conducive to the process of making money, but it's to make money. So when we look at things in a blockchain, we have some sort of a block over here. It's got our nonce down here. It's got our seal, our nonce, and it's got a bunch of transactions in it. And in each one of those transactions, we can have a memo. This is not true of all blockchains, but Bitcoin has it, Ethereum has it. These memos, we get to put in text. Like, this is the sort of a thing where I bought a CryptoKitty, and in the process of buying a CryptoKitty, I want to denote the fact that the funds came from Charles. Okay? So we can put in some text, but one of those pieces of text that we can put in is a hash, and we could have a hash of some outside thing. For instance, we could have a hash that says that, yes, at this point in time, now there is a timestamp in here, and that timestamp is going to be part of the hash data. So when this block is done, and we found the correct nonce down here for this timestamp and all of these hashes and all of these memos are sealed forever, and we know when they happened. Now, we can take this hash and we can hash some outside thing, like a PDF. And when we do this hash of the PDF, we've basically said that at this point in time, I'm going to put a seal on it. I'm going to say that that hash is right there in M2 in some format, and forevermore, if I have that PDF, I can go back and check that at this point in time, I had that exact PDF. I didn't change it. Everything is the same in it. It is fixed for all time. Immutable. So we can take the data inside the blockchain and extend it to the outside world. Now, the reason we'd want to do that is because this data storage in here is extremely expensive. Remember, the purpose is to make money, and if I spend a whole bunch of money writing the PDF into the memo field, it's going to cost a lot. Whereas if I just take the hash, which is fixed length, and I put that in there, it isn't going to cost nearly as much. So our principle here of making money says we store this data someplace else. We may make it publicly accessible, but we now have a seal. Now, lots of you at some point in time have gone out and gotten a seal like this. Somebody has taken a bound book. Okay, that is a specific term of practice. And in that bound book, they have paid a bond. That bond is, say, $5,000 to be able to use this kind of bound book. And this person will look at your ID. They'll say, you are John Doe. And they will look at you and say, yes, the picture matches you. And they'll look at these two things and they'll say, yes, you have this piece of paperwork, and this is on a piece of paper, and they'll ask you to sign it. And you will sign the piece of paperwork and date it. They'll look at your signature. They'll take your ID and go, yes, there is a signature on this ID. It matches the signature there. And then they will fill out some information on there. And they will take a stamp that is called a notary, and they will go cha-chink. And that stamp is basically a seal, saying that at this point, they went through this process of these steps. All of these things were true, and you signed it in front of them. Therefore, this document was actually signed by you. And they are probably legally required, I'm certain this is the case, to look around the room and say, by golly, in this room, nobody was holding a gun at either one of our heads to force us to do this at this point in time. You were not under duress, and this is a notarization. Now, in the context of a blockchain and modern AI technology, there's no particular reason why you couldn't do the same thing. You've got a blockchain, you've got a PDF, you can say this PDF is accurate. Not only that, but in this metadata, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do facial recognition. I'm going to look at a bunch of stuff. I'm going to go through, yes, the document, I know what it is. Yes, here's it is you. Yes, the signature matches at the bottom. In fact, it would be much better if we used a digital signature instead of a real signature there. So you digitally sign that, yes, this is my transaction and I am using it. And there it is. And now I have put a seal on this and I've said, here is the ability to do the same thing that we used to do in person on a piece of paper and sign it, but I have done it digitally on a computer, and it is now marked and sealed. And you go, well, who would want to use this? I mean, yeah, it would add some convenience to some people, and some people would pay for it. But imagine that you are a person on the USS Wyoming nuclear-powered submarine, and you really, really need to get something notarized while you are deployed because something happens in your family. And you need to notarize this document. And they can send you the document. But how do you get it notarized on board this boat? I mean, do they transfer you to an aircraft carrier where there's a notary so that they come to the surface and a helicopter picks you up and transfers you so that you can sign the document and notarize it, and they put it in their bound book? And then, it's all done and they ship it off? Or is there a way to do it digitally remotely where you can say, yes, this is me. Yes, I have a webcam and you can see that it is me and I am showing you my ID, and you can scan the ID and you can say, yes, this is the ID. Here it is. Here is all the information. So you have a PDF, you have an ID, you have video, you have some other things that go with it. And collectively, all of these things are put as a series of hashes up there, and you have an application. Now, I have been pursuing the consortium of states, that do remote digital notarization. I have been after the state of Washington, which has a bill that would apply to this and allow some of this stuff. And I'm also after people in Congress to allow this so that we can actually implement this system. So there's a legal side to this, There are pieces that go on in smart contracts to make it work, as in what are all of these things. But basically, what is it? It's an application of hashes and using a blockchain to build a company that makes money. And, this is the kind of an application that you go, this isn't a transfer of funds per se in a cryptocurrency, but it is a way to mark that documents are authentic and that the person did what they were supposed to, and prove who they are. So this is a kind of application of hashing.